It's time for Reason.
The cat's out of the box, ladies and gentlemen. The hidden secret agenda that actually agencies are doing well, that we've increased spending across the board 1% to 2% every single year for every agency in the state government. If they continue to try and rail on the same things the way they've been doing for years, they're going to fail because people are beginning to wake up and realize that they have been lying. The propaganda they've been spouting has been not true, and that they're going to get in trouble for it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason right here on the Mid-American Network. We really need to have a come-to-Jesus moment when it comes to the coverage of the media. We really need to be able to look at this and analyze it appropriately here, because this is the most pathetic reporting I have ever seen in my entire life. Welcome into the Voice of Reason on the Mid-American Network. I am Andy Hoosier. It's an honor to have you along today on a post-election Wednesday. A lot of things happening last night, and the media in an absolute frenzy. I've never seen anything like this, as they get so giddy and so excited. They believe last night has been a night of victories for Democrats across the board, and I guess to a degree. But you are literally thinking, this is the way Democrats like to hype it up. They like to build it, as we mentioned, they love to build the straw man. Create the straw man out in the middle of the field, create an issue that's really a non-issue, but make it an issue all of a sudden. Say that Republicans are supporting the issue and that they're going to fix the issue when they created it in the first place. This is the politics. This is the way politics is done. It's nothing new. It's nothing of a surprise. And none of the elections last night are that big of a shocker, nor, by the way, do they harm Donald Trump or any of the Republicans. They really don't in any way, shape, or form. This is actually not that much of a surprise. And this does not hurt the Republican movement. Now, the Republicans need to respond accordingly like that. Here's my little movement of encouragement and my little message of encouragement to the Republicans. This is not going to harm the Republican movement or the agenda. This is not going to stall anything we're doing at the federal level. We really lost no seats except for one up there at the federal level, and it was in the House, which we can afford right now. The big message and the big push we need to focus on are the midterm elections next year. And the Republican Party really needs to unite under Republican agendas. We really need to unite under leadership of the Republican Party. Why have we not done so yet? The reason that we lost some of the governorships, quote unquote, we didn't even really lose them, but the reason that we lost the races last night were because that we were not unified as a Republican Party. Should we distance ourselves from Donald Trump? Should we embrace Donald Trump? Should we use the same campaign tactics? Should we embrace it? Should we distance? We need to unite just as Republicans under conservative values. We need to remember what the Republican Party initially was for. It was for conservative principles, and we need to be able to move forward in that mindset regardless of who's in leadership right now. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and if you're going to run under the Republican Party, then you need to play nice with the leadership of the Republican Party. End of story. This is the same time that George Bush and George H.W. Bush are coming out, writing their books saying that they voted for Hillary Clinton or didn't vote at all, coming out and attacking President Trump, which, as you know, on this show, I don't focus solely on President Donald Trump. He's a aspect to the federal government, but that's about it. He has not been able to do things to his agenda. Therefore, I guarantee you that if the election was held again today between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, it would be the exact same result, because Donald Trump has not been able to promote his agenda, not because of his fault or his wrongdoing, but because Republicans have blocked what he's doing, and because Republicans are not allowing things to get through Congress in either chamber of Congress. End of story. That's all that this is. Now, looking at the election last night, the big one that they're hailing as a big victory for the Democrats
winning
is the Virginia governorship. And Ralph Northam ended up beating Ed Gillespie. Was, as you know, was a sick-run campaign. It was a very vicious one, a very personal attacking, a very personal election, which it shouldn't have gone that way anyways, but it was. And thanks to Ralph Northam, I don't know if you saw the campaign ads, and I'm sure you've heard all the campaign talk about them, was the campaign ad of driving in the truck with the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker in the back, with the big Confederate flag waving in the back of the truck, chasing a bunch of minority children, immigrant children, as they're running away and saying, "This is your Republican Party. This is Ed Gillespie, and this is what's going to happen if he's governor. And oh my gosh, it's going to be the end of the world for minority children." So the Virginia governorship, the Democrat ends up winning 54-45. That's their big victory. Are you kidding me? That's the victory that we have. Now, let me read a story from Reuters here for a second, too. The non-biased, non-partisan, non-opinionated Reuters. You notice I couldn't say that without laughing. Democrat Ralph Northam won a bitter race for Virginia governor on Tuesday, dealing a setback to President Donald Trump with a divisive victory over a Republican who had adopted some of the president's combative tactics. Excuse me? Combative tactics. This is the individual who had campaign ads running saying that his opponent, Ed Gillespie, the Republican, was a Tea Party Confederate, a racist, bigoted individual that holds Confederate flags up with the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker on the back of a truck, chasing minority children down the street. That's not a combative tactic. That's about one of the sickest ads I've ever heard in my entire life. That's almost just as stupid on the level of stupidity, if not more so, than the Democrats in the state of Kansas campaigning at the state or at the federal level, trying to talk about tax reform because of the Kansas quote-unquote failed experiment. That's the level of ignorance and stupidity that campaign ad was on. And you want to talk about combative measures. You want to talk about tactics used by Donald Trump that are angry, hateful, and combative? Come on, give me a break. That is the ultimate epitome of politics of fear, politics of bigotry, politics of hatred. It's a very offensive, which I'm surprised Republicans didn't come out and try to sue them for an offensive ad, saying that's offensive for individuals who hold the American flag or hold the Confederate flag, or individuals who have the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker, or individuals who may drive a truck. That's a terrible ad. But the Republican, very combative. He's very standout. He's using Donald Trump tactics right there. Northam, the state's lieutenant governor, overcame a barrage of attacks. This is the non-opinionated story, by the way, from Reuters. Overcame a barrage of attack ads by Republican Ed Gillespie that hit the soft-spoken Democrat on divisive. Yes, the very combative Democrat is the soft-spoken, and it was a very angry, hate-filled message from Ed Gillespie, and it was the very soft-spoken Democrat on divisive issues such as immigration, gang crime, and Confederate statues. Now, Trump did not. Here's the kicker: Trump did not campaign with Ed Gillespie. He did record a phone blast, but that was about it. And after that, after the election, Trump tweeted out, "Ed Gillespie worked hard but did not embrace me or what I stand for." So let me get this straight. The Democrats are hailing this as a victory against Donald Trump, as a movement and a shift in the power, a shift in the momentum to the Democrats, because the Democrats feel like they're gaining their momentum back after a state that Hillary Clinton had won by 5 points over Donald Trump. This race, the governorship won with the Democrat by 8 points. Really not much of a difference. And more of a localized race, but at that level as well, with much less of a turnout as opposed to the presidential election last year. The Democrats win with a 3% higher margin than what Hillary Clinton had won in the presidential election last year. The individual Northam, the Democrat, was already the lieutenant governor, was already in the government position against a Republican who distanced himself from the Republicanism that is the national movement right now, which is Trumpism, which is the popular movement. Now, I don't know if we're on a bunch of bandwagon movements here to where that's one reason I have a problem with the popular movement, the populism, Republican populism especially, because as soon as we feel that the trend is ending, then we just, we end it. We run away. We don't embrace it any longer. We just move on. Okay, that idea is over. Next one. What's next? And that's not the case here. The Republican that refused to work with President Trump, that tried to distance themselves from Trump, that's kind of the same thing as, remember during the midterms back in 2012, or was it 2012, 2014? 2014, when the Republicans won massively at the national level because Democrats tried to distance themselves from Barack Obama. It's the exact same thing. The leadership at that time was Barack Obama within the Democratic Party. And the Democrats did not embrace Barack Obama, did not support Barack Obama at that time in those midterm elections, and Republicans won hands down because of it, because they did not unite as a party. That's exactly what happened in Virginia. That's all it was. The Republican refused to embrace Donald Trump, refused to support Donald Trump in the necessity that he needed to. He tried to distance himself. He was not in government before, as opposed to the former lieutenant governor, now governor of Virginia, or governor-elect. And it was a very hate-filled, very personal election. In a state, by the way, that Hillary Clinton had already won. If this is a victory for Democrats thinking they have the momentum again, then let them have it. Let them have it, because that's as far as they're going to go. In a state that was already won by Democrats, already predominantly blue, in a state where the Republican did not want to embrace current Republican trends and popularity. If you're not going to do that, then you're not going to win. End of story. It's very simple. That's not a victory, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that the media is holding it up to be, let them do so. We need to be aware of what they're trying to do, but let them try and embrace this victory now, because that's the most they're going to get. The Democrats are still in shambles. The Democrats are still going to be losing the midterm elections next year. Republicans still are on the offense for midterm elections next year, because we need to come out as conservatives and say we have Republican members that are blocking what the Republican agenda needs to be. We haven't been able to repeal Obamacare. We haven't been able to do major tax reform. We haven't been able to build the wall. We haven't been able to let Trump be Trump. And because of that, the support has not gone away from Trump. In fact, it's actually grown and emboldened Trump and Trump supporters. And Republicans need to get behind it, or else they're going to lose, like this individual in Virginia. No shocker, no surprise, no big victory for Democrats in this race at all. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Mid-America Network.
I think I need to become a motivational speaker. I really think I do, because being the eternal optimist that I am, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, always seeing the silver lining, always seeing the positiveness, which I don't think is very hard to see in this situation. Elections across the board. We can talk about the New Jersey governorship as well, maybe. Oh, the Democrat, Phil Murphy, won 56-43. It's New Jersey. What are you going to expect? Chris Christie was about the most conservative thing you're going to get there, and that's, well, all you got to do is look at the picture of him kissing up to Barack Obama while he's governor, or causing an issue in the state of New Jersey and lowering the credit rating of New Jersey and getting into debt in New Jersey. And the only thing that Chris Christie actually did well was try and fight the unions. That was about it. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. A blue state of New Jersey goes to a blue governor. Shocker, right? And Virginia, a blue state already that beat that had Hillary Clinton, and it called for Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election, goes to the lieutenant governor, a Democrat, during a divisive election with a Republican that didn't embrace Republicanism at the time. Shocker, right? These are not Democratic victories. They're going to hold it up to be, and let them try to, because it gives them false hope. And sometimes false hope is good for individuals, but let them have it, because it's not going to do anything to the Republican Party. Wait until the midterm elections next year, and you'll see a different story. Let's go right to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
This is Pete.
Hey, good morning, Pete. How are you, sir?
Yeah, doing well.
Good.
You know, this thing with Ed Gillespie, this is living proof that he lost because he is part of the swamp, and Republicans don't want anything to do with the swamp.
Sure.
He didn't embrace, as you pointed out, not embrace President Trump. And I am by no means a Trump pansy. I'm not a blind supporter, but when the guy's right, he's right.
Exactly.
And, Gillespie he distanced himself. He held Trump at arm's length, and it bit him. And as far as the Democrats celebrating about this, you know what? Net sum gain is zero. They didn't gain anything. Now, in New Jersey, I think you pointed out, that's a blue state. Christie was a rhino. Everybody knows it.
Right.
And so for the Democrats to pick up a rhino seat, okay, And let's see what New Jersey looks like in 4 years.
Exactly. And see, well, I don't know. I mean, the big victory must have been when Bill de Blasio re-won the mayor of New York City, because apparently that was going to all of a sudden turn red with an individual to try and beat Bill de Blasio after all the national attention he's gotten and what he's done. Give me a break. I mean, these are supposed to be big, shocking election results that we've seen last night.
Well, anything that the press ballyhoos as a shocker isn't really a shocker. It's a snoozer. It's the stuff the press doesn't tell you about. Those are the shockers. Uranium One.
Well, of course, Uranium One. We have, and remember, we still have a big election coming up on December 12th down in Alabama with Roy Moore, and I still got a good feeling about that one. And that one could be a sure tell sign of an individual who, a conservative, a solidly conservative individual, socially conservative individual who Trump didn't endorse in the primary but is endorsing now and is working closely with this individual. And that one's going to be a bloodbath. And I guarantee you, I bet you, I'll put money on it that we're going to see a different story in Alabama on December 12th as opposed to what we saw last night.
Well, the press will just play it down because, if I recall correctly, Alabama did go for Trump.
It did, right.
And,
so, yeah, they'll just, it's
so
just a crazy
they're
Republican
just play
state.
it down. Oh, they're just a bunch of rednecks that just went for the Trump supporter.
I'm surprised
That's
they didn't use the same,
off.
that campaign ad that was against Ed Gillespie there with the truck and the Confederate flag and Don't Tread on Me chasing after a bunch of minority children. I'm surprised they didn't try to use that tactic on Roy Moore, which I'm sure they are to some degree, but I'm surprised that ad wasn't used for him down in Alabama, because that's what they would try.
Well, you mentioned that ad, and everyone brings up that "Don't Tread on Me" flag. What does that? They got to ask themselves a question. What was that flag all about? What does that mean? Don't tread on me. It means I'm tired of being walked on, and that's when it was originally created, it was because of the British Empire walking on the colonists.
Sure.
And it basically forcing the colonists into servitude. And so,
but that's why they despise that sticker and they despise that flag, because they want to tread on individuals. They want that utopian feel. They want that socialism. They want that big government regulation. That's what they want. So that mentality of "don't tread on me," they despise it with a passion. So what do? The way the Democrats do very well is they categorize it, they demonize it, so that way anybody associated with it looks like a terrible, horrible, bigoted, racist individual, because that's what they want people to think, because they hate that mentality to a T.
Exactly. And it's kind of funny that they would apply something like that to, let's face it, that was an immigration ad. And so what the Democrats are in essence saying is, well, we're going to categorize all people, all white people who say "don't tread on me," but that's the problem. We are being tread on by the illegal aliens.
Well, we're being tread on by illegal aliens. We're being tread on by the government. We're being tread on by refugees. We're being tread on by individuals who don't know how to speak English when they come to the country. We're being tread on by progressives who are "quote unquote" tolerant of anybody except for those who do not agree with them. We're being tread on by individuals of the LGBTQ community, whatever they want to call themselves. We're being tread on by everybody because they control the discussion. They control the terminology. They control the "quote unquote" microaggressions, the safe spaces, the gun-free zones. They control it all, and if you disagree with them, then you are what's wrong with society. Pete, I appreciate the call, my friend. I love it. Bottom of the hour news coming up here. Lots more to get to. The elections last night, not a big shocker, but people are making it into be as such. Just wait till December 12th. Wait till the midterms next year. Wait until the governorship's coming up next year. It's going to be a whole different ball game, and the Democrats are going to have their false hope, which is going to be very comical to watch.
If Andy drives you nuts,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
let him know. Call the show, 721-8255. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network. Happy post-election Wednesday. Actually, speaking of getting angry with me, there are a few individuals who used to call and argue with me in the first hour. I've not heard from them in a while. I'd love to hear back from you. If you do disagree, if you haven't heard me debate with somebody, I'm very open and I let you have your time. I'm not like some of the other talk show hosts that just shut you down and just yell over you. I don't do that. I love debate. I love dialogue, so I will give you your time. Now, you're not going to talk over me. I do have something called Mr. Hold Button, which I will put you on very easily if I'm trying to ask you a question and you refuse to respond, but I will give you your time if you do decide to debate with me. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program. Speaking of the elections, I misspoke earlier in the show as well. When I said that we lost a seat in the House, we didn't. We won as a Republican. This is not, of course, getting as much media attention, but we are still winning as Republicans at the federal level, and Utah House District number 3 goes to John Curtis, the Republican, with a vast, major majority, 58% to 27% against the Democrat, Kathy Allen, a very well-financed Democrat, by the way, Kathy Allen in Utah District, House District number 3. So at the federal level, where it's important for us to continue on tax reform, continue on killing Obamacare, continue on actually doing what we need to do at the federal level with President Donald Trump, we won and we maintain. The governorships that were up for election last night lost with Democrat already run states, with states that went predominantly to Hillary Clinton, and they make that as a big turning around where the Democrat Party, I don't know if you heard the victory speeches, the Democrat Party's still alive, the Democrat Party's still going. Hey, good luck with that. False hope. Give them their false hope. Let them have it, because we can destroy them when it comes to the elections next year. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing real well. I wanted to draw back and talk about Sutherland, Texas, just for a minute.
Sure.
The gentleman, the NRA instructor, who came out with a rifle and actually stopped the killing.
Yes.
That was still going on. He was following the safety rules. He didn't have a loaded gun. He didn't have a loaded magazine next to his rifle. It took him time, maybe 10 or 15 seconds at least, to get a magazine and shove a few rounds into it.
Sure.
If you're going to keep a gun of that sort for emergencies, for something like that, or even just a burglar breaking into your house, the way to do it is to keep a fully loaded magazine, and there are devices that go into the chamber that can be removed and the rifle charged and be ready to go in 1 or 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's a great way for the security measure of it to have something in there so that way a bullet doesn't accidentally fall into the chamber for some reason and have it accidental fire if you're storing it in the home, or for if a kid ends up getting a hold of it or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great, nice little tool to have.
There are many devices. You can keep your rifle with an empty chamber and a loaded magazine in it. And if you have children in the house and they're too young to be taught how to handle the firearm safely, you can do all kinds of things to lock it up so the action can't be cycled, to keep children away from it. The safest gun is the gun on your hip, on your person. That's the one that's safe. Listen to Mr. Walters on his program, and he's always talking about he's got the safest radio studio in the country.
That's right. He's always got them in there.
He also drinks liquids in the studio, so I guess he has a waterproof keyboard.
Exactly. By the way, I did get the honor to be able to fill in for him last night. What'd you think of the program? Yeah, I
heard you yesterday, and it would be nice if we could call in on this number when you're on the air doing his program and make a comment.
Yeah, it's weird because since I dial into their studios, which are, I dial in, and I appreciate the call there, Jim. What I do is I actually broadcast from here, and I dial into their studios down in Dallas, where their headquarters are, and I'll be able to broadcast it from there. And on KQAM here, And on KIUL, actually out in Garden City as well. It's actually delayed taped as we record that show. It's actually live at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But he doesn't like to take calls just for the fact that it's such a short show, only 1 hour. And he, has got a lot to get to there in that 1 hour. So it's always a great honor to be able to fill in for Mark Walters. We're going to get him on the show here again real soon. But I appreciate the call there, Jim. No, you're absolutely right. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Your thoughts on the election last night? Do you think that it was a big victory for Democrats as the media is hyping it up to be? You could hear the talking heads this morning as well if you listen to any of them in the news shows. The great victory for Democrats. I read you the story about Reuters talking about the great victory in Virginia for the governorship, the great victory that the overcoming Republicanism and the Democrat Party staying alive, the Democrat Party still having some ground, the Democrat Party turning itself around and getting some momentum, and they're using this to go into the midterm elections next year. I say good for them because it's not going to happen. I guess the largest victory they had last night, which is not much of a victory, but the largest victory they had last night was Danica Rome, who is the first transgender state legislator in Virginia. Same state, by the way, that the Democrat won for the governorship over Ed Gillespie. The same state, by the way, that Hillary Clinton won in the presidential election last year, a very blue state, and the first transgender state legislator ended up winning last night. That's their big victory. That's the big victory that they hold true to themselves. And I say good for them. I don't really care. Now, the transgenderism, of course, was the main focal point of the election. This individual, Danica Rome, used that on the campaign trail. Her opponent, a solidly conservative individual, so it was a loss on that sense from the conservative standpoint, used that and sunk to that level to try and play that in the election, which was not the smart move on his end. But this is the big victory for Democrats. If that's the one victory they have, let them have it. Because playing the identity politics, again, is going to be a short-lived thing. You cannot succeed long-term goals in politics by using the identity politics, the way the Democrats have done, by the way. The way that they have tried to groupthink, the way that they've tried to use the identity politics, whether it's the skin color, whether it's the race, or whether it's the gender, whether it's the sexual orientation, whether it's it doesn't matter. When you use that, it's going to be short-lived. That's why the Democrats have been losing, and it's only going to work in few select areas of the country. Now, if they take this candidate in this campaign tactic in this style and try and use it for the rest of their elections across the country, they will lose badly, and it will be the end of the Democratic Party. But Danica Rome, first state transgender legislator, Rome beat the district's 26-year-old incumbent conservative values and government transparency champion Bob Marshall. The race attracted national attention as Marshall, a conservative who proposed a bill restricting which bathrooms transgender people could use, faced off against the transgender stepmother who plays in a metal band. Ooh. The district also found itself in the spotlight as one of the few Republican governed areas that voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016's presidential race. So the big victory, again, a district in an area that Hillary Clinton won. Well done. Rome ran on a platform focused on infrastructure projects to create jobs and fix Virginia's clogged Route 28, along with raising teacher pay. Marshall put government issues at the center of the campaign, promoting government transparency, small businesses, and school choice for parents. Rome, the transgender individual, the Democrat, spent more time in the spotlight than her opponent. Marshall refused to debate Rome and often declined interviews. Well, we can lump up the loss right there for that. You have to get your face out there. You have to do interviews. You have to do debates. You have to actually be out so people know who you are and actually what you stand for and how to counter the other arguments. When you don't do that, yeah, you're going to lose. It's an end. You already know the outcome of that game. It's going to be done. Rome really played the Trump campaign style there, is take as many interviews as you possibly can, be in front of as many people as you possibly can, be on as many media outlets as you possibly can, so when people go in who may not even follow politics that closely, know the name. It's very simple. Donald Trump, how much did he spend during the primary in the presidential elections? Very, very little. He was one of the bottom. He was on the bottom of the list with campaign financing in the primary, but he was on every single day somewhere in the media. They were talking about a comment that he made. They were talking about a tweet that he made. They were talking about an interview that he did. They were talking about something he did in the debates. They were talking about Donald Trump nonstop. That's all you have to do. Get your name out in the public. By the way, this is a message for any Republicans running for the governor's race or for the midterms next year. Get your name out in the media. Free publicity, baby. That's what it's all about. And that's all you have to do. And Rome did a very good job of that. Did the Trump style tactic. Hey, let's get out there. And Marshall did not do that. That's what I lumped that one out to be. But they did their campaigns. Marshall said the election was about America's national character and that Rome, the Democrat, was going against nature. Quote, Danica clearly is out here doing this for making a marker in the national character that you can engage in this behavior, meaning transgenderism, which clearly goes against the laws of nature and nature's God, and hold public office to make decisions on behalf of the common good. That is what's kind of at stake here. That's where he lost, right there. Whether you agree, disagree, doesn't matter. I personally agree with the comment to some extent, but you don't sink to that level during an election time. You don't make the race about that during the election time. That's not what you do. And that's why you lost. Because when the Democrats and the progressives are able to pull you into the sewers and make you debate on their terms, you're going to lose every time. No matter how brilliant you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how quick-witted you are, you're going to lose because you're going to be sunk down to their level. You're going to be playing on their turf. They control the dialogue. They control the conversation. They control the terminology. They control what's going to be said. So when you go in there, hey, I'm going to debate you about this, if you make any kind of comment, then they very easily turn it around to make you look like a bigoted, closed-minded, racist jerk. That's what they're really good at. Don't play at their level. And that's exactly what Marshall did in that campaign. That's the comments that he made right there. Whether you agree or disagree, I personally agree with them. But you don't do that. You just don't go down that road. That's why you lost. The big victory for Democrats, one state legislative seat in Virginia, with a transgender individual playing the identity politics. How far is that going to go? Is that going to be a message done across the country? Probably not. This is The Voice of Reason. Your thoughts and calls when we come back.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason right here on the Mid-American Network. Appreciate you hanging out with us today on Post-Election Wednesday. So much to get to today, so many things to talk about, and I want to hear from you. I know that you're going to get some election coverage on your local elections coming up in the next hours here. We'll be doing that here in Wichita in hour number 2. Stay tuned in for that. Very excited about what's to come for the Republican Party nationwide across all the states. We're still winning. We're still doing well. Here's the thing with Ed Gillespie. When you're in an election, and this happened with John McCain, remember how you felt back during 2008 with John McCain. Remember how you felt with Mitt Romney in 2012. Remember how some of you may have felt with Donald Trump in 2016. To where they weren't necessarily your candidate. You didn't even necessarily like some of them. However, during the election, you support them. During the election, you just do what you have to do to get them in office because you realize that party trumps person in the general election. That's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it always will be. Unfortunately, we have a two-party system. We need to accept that. The third party thing's not going to happen. It's never going to happen, especially at the federal level. It's just not. We need to rally behind Republicans. And someone like Ed Gillespie, it was not necessarily the most conservative individual, was not necessarily obviously not a Trump supporter, tried to distance himself from Trump, tried to do his own thing, tread his own path, and it didn't work out for him. And many individuals, conservative talk pundits, campaigners, Republicans in the area, had to make that tough decision. Do I support an individual who maybe I'm a Trump supporter and I don't like Ed Gillespie, but I'm in that area and I'm going to vote for him, so I have to because he's the Republican as opposed to the Democrat. We should have done a better job in the primary. In 2008, John McCain. Show of hands who actually supported John McCain because they actually liked John McCain. I don't know I know of maybe one or two of individuals that I know personally. That's about it. You supported John McCain because you supported more so Sarah Palin as the running mate on the ticket, but just primarily to get the Republican in to beat Barack Obama. Didn't work out, but we tried. In 2012, who, show of hands, was actually a big supporter of the person Mitt Romney as opposed to just the party trying to defeat Barack Obama because we are in such dire straits to try and rid the presidency of Barack Obama. You do what you have to do in the election in order to try and get them in there. We rally behind the Republican, but that doesn't mean that we actually support everything the Republican does. Ed Gillespie was not the most conservative individual. And I don't think he could have been, being in a blue state like Virginia, where they just elected the first transgender individual into the state legislature, and was a state that Hillary Clinton had won in the presidential election last year, and was going up against someone like Ralph Northam, who played very dirty politics with a campaign ad using a Confederate flag and a white individual in a big old truck trying to chase after minority children, which is dirty and pathetic in itself, but was also lieutenant governor of the state, was also already in the governmental system. It's a very challenging task to have. But the media, as you go throughout the day today, and you're going to hear other news, and you hear the big stories, and you hear the national news, and you hear the talking heads, it's going to be the big victory of Democrats last night. It's just not the case. It didn't happen. They won 2 governorships that were already leaning blue already, that were already predominantly in progressive states, and it changed nothing. We maintained a House seat, Utah House District number 3, as Republicans. That didn't change. Now we go into the midterm elections. Republicans, they're trying to say the Republicans are shocked, that the Republicans are hurting, that the Republicans had, it's the Republican horror story. As much as I love the Drudge Report to try and get information on once in a while, Drudge is more of the populist. They were Donald Trump supporters from the very beginning, which I don't have a problem with that. But the big headline on Drudge this morning was the Republican horror story. Republicans lose big. Republicans devastated after elections last night. And that's a lie. And the Republicans are not feeling that way. As a Republican and part of the Republican movement right now, don't put that in the head of Republican voters and constituents throughout the country. You don't do that. The Democrats are the ones that say, oh yeah, big victory for Democrats. Woohoo, we feel really good about ourselves. We won elections we should have won anyways. That's the extent of them. The Republicans say, yeah, you guys have those. Get ready for December 12th with Roy Moore. Get ready for the midterm elections next year. Get ready for a whole bunch of gubernatorial races next year. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be huge. It's going to be great, and we're going to continue to win. Donald Trump's agenda has not been implemented yet because we need more Republicans. Most Republicans are aware of that fact, and wait until we get more Republicans in Congress in both chambers. It's going to happen. Wait for it. Democrats didn't win last night. They won things that they should have won in the first place. If they wouldn't have won, then we would know the Democrat Party is over. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason coming up. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
The cat's out of the box, ladies and gentlemen. The hidden secret agenda that actually agencies are doing well, that we've increased spending across the board 1% to 2% every single year for every agency in the state government. If they continue to try and rail on the same things the way they've been doing for years, they're going to fail because people are beginning to wake up and realize that they have been lying. The propaganda they've been spouting has been not true, and that they're going to get in trouble for it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. It is a Wednesday. It's a post-election Wednesday. And can you believe it? Not only is it a post-election Wednesday, it is 1 year ago today was the election of President Donald J. Trump. I know a lot of people are panicking about that. Today, I think, is the day you're going to hear the protests all around the country. People going outside and screaming at the top of their lungs. Their scream protest for the anniversary of the election of Donald Trump. I'm going to find it quite entertaining. I hope I do hear that because it'll be sweet music to my ears. I think we can go along with that. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. I am Andy Hoosier. 8 minutes past the hour. 721-8255-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, I'd love to hear from you today. What's on your mind? What do you think of the elections last night? And we talked about in the first hour a lot of the national elections, the big movement, what they say has been a great rallying cry, and the rallying of Republicans losing, the Democrats gaining momentum again, which was just not the case in any way, shape, or form. We can talk about that a little bit later as well. I want to get some of the local elections now that we don't have our affiliate stations on the western part of the state and down in Oklahoma and Texas, but I do want to get to some of the local city council and school board elections. We talked to a lot of the candidates, so we'll get an update from those results in case you did not hear last night. By the way, I hope you did enjoy it. It was really funny. I had to chuckle a little bit because we were doing election results last night and doing election coverage right here on KQAM. I was doing reports at the top and bottom of the hour, and it was a blast. I love being able to do that. Election time to me is my Super Bowl. It is my most exciting time of the year. I love election nights. But at the same time, I had to chuckle because my voice was everywhere. We would go into the top of the hour and do the election result, and then a few commercials would play. And, as you know, I voice a lot of commercials doing the production manager here at the station, and then had a rejoin liner. Hey, join me for the morning right here on KQAM, yada, yada. And then I went into Armed American Radio, and as I guest hosted Mark Walters last night, my voice was on there, so it was just all over the place, and I had to chuckle a little bit about that, but it was such a fun night being able to talk about guns, and then at the same time being able to cover election coverage last night. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully you got to enjoy it and take away from it as well. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be having on a really great guest. I'm really excited about this, Matt Schlapp. He is the president of the American Conservative Union. As you know, they're the ones that put on the Conservative Political Action Conference, the massive CPAC convention that goes on in Washington, D.C. every February. They're doing a rally tomorrow right here in the Wichita area. It's going to be at Wichita State University. It's free to go to, by the way, if you want to go. If you want to feel the rallying cry of what CPAC's like, if you've never been, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. All you got to do is go to conservative.org. You can go and you can register. It is totally free. You don't have to pay for a single thing. I'm going to be out there tomorrow night. It's tomorrow evening. And Matt Schlapp, president of the American Conservative Union, is going to be joining us here at the bottom of the hour. He's going to be flying in for the rally tomorrow. He's going to be speaking at the rally tomorrow. It's going to be a great time. So get ready to be joined with Matt Schlapp coming up in about 20 minutes from now. And excited to talk with him. We'll talk about the election here. I do want to give you an update from the local election coverage that we did in some of the races that happened last night. The big race, the hotly contested race, by the way, for the Wichita City Council was up in the 1st District, up in the northeast corner where I live, and Brandon Johnson ended up winning that one over Mike Kennard, 66% to 34% last night. Wichita City Council District number 3, James Clendenin ended up winning 71 to 29 over William Stouffer, and District number 6, Cindy Claycomb, ended up winning 88 to 12, a big victory for her over Sybil Strum. So those were the city council elections for the Wichita area. USD 259 in the Wichita School District, a really hotly contested race. I'm glad, I do have to say first off, that we did see a decent turnout last night. I am somewhat impressed by that. I don't know the official number of how many people turned out, but I had heard that we had hit about 5.5% turnout by 1 o'clock in the afternoon was the number that I had seen. So I don't know about what happened last night after everybody had gone and voted, but they were anticipating a 5 to 8% turnout for the entire day. And the fact that we hit 5% in the middle of the day, to me, is a success. It's still not anywhere near what we need to be for a local election to talk about city council and the school board elections. But overall, the numbers were up. I hope that we were able to contribute to that. I hope that we were able to actually make people aware to go out and vote. I had heard from a few people yesterday saying, well, I didn't even realize that there was an election going on until you started talking about it. I didn't even remember that there was an election going on, a local election, since there wasn't a big campaign going on nationally of a big election that happened, so I just didn't think about it. It didn't turn out. So there was a big turnout last night, bigger than normal-ish. I don't know the official number yet. We'll get that. But we do have to pat you on the back and say thank you for showing up and just voting, making your voice heard. And again, Brandon Johnson, James Clendenin, and Cindy Claycomb ended up winning the city council for district numbers 1, 3, and 6. For USD 259, the Wichita School Board, kind of a shocker, and it was down within literally about 80 votes. A really, really tight vote. You want to talk about how elections actually count and your vote actually matters? Ben Blankley for district number 1 of the Wichita School Board ended up beating the incumbent of 10 years, Betty Arnold, last night, 7,647 votes to 7,524 votes. A very tight race. Percentage-wise, they were tied 50-50, but down to within 80 votes in that district. So kind of a big deal on that one. Congrats to Ben on getting on the school board there. USD 259, district number 2 for the Wichita School Board, Julie Hedrick. We chatted with her on the air here, ended up winning that one. It's a little bit of a narrow race with Trish Heilman, who also came on the program, and those two squared off neck and neck. 44-35 was the official vote there. Deborah Washington, the third candidate, was not able to chat with here on the show, ended up coming in third at 21%. USD 259, district number 5, Mike Rohde ended up beating Peter Grant 64-36, and district number 6, Ron Rosales ended up winning 49% of the vote there. Walt Chappell coming in second with 28% of the vote, and Shirley Jefferson at 23%. By the way, these numbers hat tip to Cake TV for their reporting. They were great last night as we were getting information and getting that on the air for you. Looking at just briefly some of the other races around the South Central Kansas area and some of the other rural communities. Bel Air City Council, solid conservative, ended up winning on that one. Jeff Elsoff ended up winning one of the seats. There were 4 seats available there. Justin Smith, Jeff Elsoff, Jim Benage, and Jeff Hawes all ended up winning those seats for the 4 city council positions in Bel Air. The mayor of Bel Air, David Austin, ended up winning over Patty Beamer. And let's see here. Clearwater City Council, Yvonne Kuhn, Christopher Griffin, Gene Garcia, all getting on the board there with the top 3 wins. Ron Marshall not making it in that race. The Colwich City Council, Butch Winter, Kevin Doherty, Pam Weingardner ended up getting on there. 3 positions available. Derby City Council, Ward number 3, Andrew Swindle beating Von Willis 53-47% in those races. So overall, I'm not going to go through all of these here. There's a lot of them, a lot of races last night. What really struck my attention, though, that I was not aware of because we were so focused on some of the issues here in the Wichita area, but there were a lot of bond issues, again, on the ballots for some of the surrounding areas. Derby School Board, or Derby School District had a 61, $63 million bond issue. Rose Hill had a $10 million bond issue. A lot of the school districts having more bond issues, doing repairs, doing security enhancements, doing building improvements for the school districts, which again shows the importance, the necessity for you to show up and make your voice heard in a lot of these races, because as we talk about the massive amounts of money going into education. It was funny. I chatted with my neighbor yesterday as he was actually at the voting precinct the same time I was, and I chatted with him when we got home, and as he was getting out of his car, I was getting out of my car, and I just said hi to him for a brief minute, and I just kind of nonchalantly just made the comment of, hey, it's nice to see that there were a good amount of people at my precinct. It wasn't overly busy, but, there were people going in and out. It was a steady pace of individuals. There wasn't a long line, but it was steady, which was really nice to see. So I made that comment to him, and he said, yeah. He said, it's really good because I think that the education issue has been front and center. And he doesn't listen to the show, I don't think, but he said it's really tough because the school districts don't get a lot of money, and the little money they do get, they don't spend very efficiently. And I didn't say anything because I don't think he listens to my program, but I just said, oh, well, yeah, they don't spend it very efficiently. And I just kind of left it at that, not trying to break down and explain in the middle of cold weather outside that they actually get more money than they've ever received in the past. And they just don't spend it and allot it appropriately. But that is a good point. The reason people did turn out was because the education debate has been a hotly contested issue for a long time here in the state of Kansas. So the local districts, the constituents, you, the voters, are beginning to wake up and realize that this is an important race. This is an important issue. Now, I believe that the majority of the bonds that I did see on the ballot last night, trying to skim through here, did end up passing. One of them by a really close margin, if I remember correctly from what I saw last night. It was within like a 50-49 vote. It was within, and by the way, those actually had lower votes than a lot of the candidates did, so it literally won within like 5 votes or 5 or 6 votes. I'll have to look for that one up and see which one it was. But bond issues, $60+ million for the Derby area going into the schools. If we have money allotted to that, if we're already spending our taxpayer money through the state to go to the schools, to do the refurbishings, to do the salary hikes, to do the pension plans, to do whatever we need to do as a school district, why do we need continuous bonds? And a lot of them, by the way, are planned out to where they're, 10, 12 years out, 8 years out, to where by the time that we have forgotten all about it and they need repairs again, that bond is finally expiring. And instead of letting it die out so we can save some money locally, we just end up renewing it so we can continue to do another 10-year plan. And then by the time we pay it off, at the same time, that same thing that we improved is crumbling and breaking again, and we got to improve it again. It's a very vicious cycle to where you're never, ever, ever going to see your taxpayer money locally on the local level, your mill levy rates actually go down in order to go to the education system. They need the state money. They need the local money. They need the mill levy money. They need the bonds. So that way they can get money from all around, and then whatever money they can scrap to through the federal government as well. So money coming in from all around, and at the same time, again, talking about how we don't have enough money for education. It's a very vicious cyclical cycle here, but that's the reality of it. So I would have liked to have seen a lot of those bonds be voted down, in my humble opinion. I know some people still would have liked to have seen them just because of the necessity of what they feel what the bond was going towards, but I think that we could have found the money to do those in other areas, whether it's actually allotting the cash reserves that many of these school districts are sitting on, whether it's using money that they're given through the state and appropriating it appropriately, or finding other means, saving up money, actually doing what Dave Ramsey talks about, saving money year over year over year. So instead of actually getting in debt and paying it off over 10 years and then renewing that debt when it needs improvements again, is that by the time that it needs improvement, you have saved up enough money in that cash reserve to be able to fund it outright, and then you continue to save a little bit of money and stash it away in the bank again. I know it's a crazy, weird concept that the government doesn't know how to do, but that's something maybe we should start looking at. It's your money. If you want to spend your taxpayer money on it, then all the power to you. I personally would like to keep my taxpayer money low because I don't like paying through it with my sales tax and my income tax and my property tax all at the same time, and then them come back and tell me, well, we just don't have enough, we need more. I personally don't like that. If you like to give away your money for free things and you think that it's going to a good cause, all the power to you, baby. That's what donations look like. That's what charity, I guess, looks like. 721-8255, 721-TALK. Your thoughts on the local elections that happened last night. Again, congratulations to everybody that did win all across the South Central Kansas area. We'll start talking to them the best we can. We're going to try and get on Mayor Jeff Longwell tomorrow to welcome some of the new city council members onto the Wichita City Council, talk about some of the issues happening here locally in the city and how to move forward from there. And now that we have had the election, we will be able to reach out to some of the new school board candidates as well when we need to get updates from the Wichita School Board as well. Your thoughts and calls when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM. A good Wednesday morning to you. It's post-election Wednesday. Appreciate you hanging out with us here. A lot of things happening. Is election time, the most patriotic time in the area, in America. Your thoughts on it. Big victories for, they say, the Democrats on the national level. I say, ha! That's a joke. We still maintain the House seat in Utah, District number 3. We see the local elections. It's a good turnout for what I saw. Again, if you, depending on what you saw in your precinct, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are with the local elections, school board, city council. Let's move forward. Let's figure out what we're going to do. It showed, in my opinion, a little bit of a change. Whether it's just a try, hey, we're going to try something a little bit different. I mean, a close race in the school board district number 1, Ben Blankley and Betty Arnold. A hard-fought race, and Ben ended up winning over the incumbent that's been there for 10 plus years. So I think it's the election that said, hey, you know what, we're going to try something new. We're going to try something different. Let's see what we're doing, because what we're doing right now is not working. We have a school district that has the largest amount of cash reserves it's ever had in its history. It has more money than it's ever had ever before, ever from the state government. And then there are some that we're talking about, hey, we just need to we need to take care of the teachers because we haven't been able to because we don't have enough money. So we're going to try something different here. Now that we're aware of this and that we've been talking about this and focusing on this, which, by the way, on Friday, we're going to have Dave Travert from the Kansas Policy Institute on the show to talk more about these numbers for education funding. Now that we're aware of this, our activism does not stop at the election. It actually goes to the next level now, to where we pay attention to what they're doing on the school board. So that way it's easier, by the way, too, next time in the next election on whether to support these individuals again or whether to replace them. But we can't wait till that time. We have to stay active now. It is that time. We got to do it again. It's day number 2 of this, and I need you to give me a call, 721-825-5721-TALK. It's your opportunity to get yourself a Thanksgiving bird. The KQAM KGSO turkey drop, brought to you by all of our wonderful, great sponsors. We have 11 of them. By the way, turkeys provided by Jim's Apple Market of Cheney. And here's how it works. I want caller number 1 right now, 721-825-5721-TALK, to give me a call. I list 3 of our businesses that are participating sponsors in this. You have to guess which business it actually is that the turkey lands on. And then if you win and you get it right. Now, I had the list here, and it's preordained, so I'm just not making this up out of the blue here. It's actually, this is the one that's going to be this time. And if you win it, then you get the turkey. If not, then we try it again later on in the show. So let's go to the phone, shall we? 721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
James.
James, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Andy. How are you?
Hey, we're living the dream every fun day, every single day. I got 3 businesses here for the KQAM turkey drop. You have to just guess which one it's going to land on here. And the 3 today, the options are Derby Mattress, Spears Restaurant and Pie Shop, and Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop. Which one, James, do you feel the turkey's going to land on today?
Spears Pie Shop.
Spears Restaurant and Pie Shop. Out of the 3, the helicopter's dropping. It's hovering over the business, whichever one it may be. The turkey's beginning to drop. Which one's it going to land on? 2 in a row, baby. 2 days in a row, James. You end up winning yourself a nice Thanksgiving bird and a turkey. Hat tip to KQAM and all of our great sponsors here, provided by Jim's Apple Market of Cheney. Stay on the line. We'll get your information here for the KQAM turkey drop for Thanksgiving. I love doing this. We got a lot more of these, so stay tuned in because we have a lot more days coming up with turkey drops. If you didn't get it today, we'll do it again tomorrow. Stay tuned. Also, by the way, we still have the Dave Ramsey book giveaway in a little bit as well. But congratulations, James, Spears Restaurant and Pie Shop, the one that got the turkey dropped on today. And thanks to all of our sponsors again: Augusta Flight Center, Just Right Auto Repair, Best Friends Pet Clinic, MJ's Truck Repair of Mound Ridge, Kansas, Croft Lumber of Heston, Kennedy Tire and Auto Care Center, Kiter Nursery, Davis Liquor Outlet, Scott Child's Old Time Clock Shop, Spears Restaurant, and Derby Mattress. Bottom of the hour news coming up. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Through the fake news on a daily basis.
I hope now you boys see that this is totally serial.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, KQAM. Appreciate you hanging out with us today on a Wednesday. It's post-election Wednesday. Appreciate you hanging out here. 36 minutes past the hour. 721-825-5721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you. The Facebook Live feed is up and rolling as well. By the way, like it, share it. Let's expand. Let's grow. Let's create this conservative grassroots movement that we see here. The Democrats think they won last night. Ha! That's funny. They're so cute. Pat them on the head sometime. Oh, good boy. Good girl. It's good whatever that won in Virginia there. 721-825-5721-TALK. If you want to recharge your batteries a little bit, which is necessary sometimes. Everybody in politics needs to recharge their batteries. You get downtrodden. You listen to the media. You hear about all the negative news all the time. It's very depressing once in a while, or like all the time. And a way to recharge your batteries is to go to a rally, to go to a place to where you just need to feel good and hear about the positive things. Get yourself excited about a movement. Get yourself excited about a candidate. Get yourself excited about something happening now. The way that I used to do it when I was in college, running the chairman, being the chairman of the College Republicans in Ohio, was I would go to the Conservative Political Action Conference. I went there 2 years in a row. I got to meet the coolest people. I was there the year that Rush Limbaugh spoke. I was there the year that President George W. Bush spoke, the year prior to that. It was such a great time. You get to meet cool people. And the organization that puts it on, the American Conservative Union, is such a wonderful conservative outlet, one of the oldest conservative organizations in the country. They organize it every single year, and they're doing it here in Wichita to some degree. They're doing a rally tomorrow. It's free. You have to go, conservative.org. All you got to do is put in your email. You can register, get ready to go, have some fun, recharge your batteries, which especially after an election is very necessary. And I'm really excited to have on the show the president of the American Conservative Union, Mr. Matt Schlapp, on the line with us here. Matt, appreciate you joining us. Good morning, sir.
Great to be with you, Andy, and I'm glad that your CPAC experiences were so great because I tell you, I love it every year, and you need to come back.
Oh, I definitely have to come back. We need to go out and broadcast out there this next coming up year or something, because that'd be so much fun. It really is. Those were
the largest. That's the largest radio row that you'll see at any conservative or Republican event. It is everybody comes to CPAC, and you got to be there.
Oh, absolutely. It is. Like I said, I mean, those were some of the most memorable times. I only did 2 years of college because I realized that I just couldn't do the college thing and ended up getting into radio after that. But the 2 years I was in college, I went out there, and you're right. I mean, it is the tons and tons of speakers that you have, the excitement to be able to meet the people, to be able to get books, to be able to get photographs and autographs. It's just such a cool event. How many years have you guys been doing the CPAC convention?
No, I think since 1973.
Wow.
50 some odd years.
I love it.
You know, I often say I chair a group that's older than I am. So it's really a great honor, and we're really excited to bring our approach with CPAC to Wichita. We're going to be at the Metroplex tomorrow at 4:00, and we're going to talk about what I think is a really interesting and topical area, which is Ronald Reagan's doctrine of peace through strength, is that relevant today? And the argument that we're going to make is it is relevant. We have to have a strong economy and a strong military working in combination to show the world what a better life can be.
A lot of, and unfortunately, my generation, I'm one of the millennial types. I'm one of the younger crowd individuals. I know a lot of people are that listen to the show as well, some of the older crowd as well. But a lot of people, even if they were around at that time, don't remember the talks that Reagan had, the peace through strength, and the Cold War to really show capitalism versus communism on where the money's going to go and how we can be strong based on a private sector. Ronald Reagan was able to cut taxes after Jimmy Carter, was able to deregulate, was able to focus on the private sector, and we saw massive GDP growth and the economy tick back up. We just came through 8 years of Barack Obama with no GDP growth above 3% in 8 years, which is absurd. And less than a year later, Donald Trump's in office, and we see GDP growth astronomical right now, showing that this peace through strength and the focus on the private sector still works, by the way, and it's prevailing right now as we speak.
Yeah, and look, and the other problem with Obama is not just inheriting a kind of a bound-up economy that was growing at a tepid 1-point-something%, but Barack Obama left us with a much more dangerous world. Barack Obama and his predecessors had policies towards North Korea which would actually allow them to become nuclearized, and now they're nuclearized and sending missiles over Japan and getting close to American territory. This is the same policy, by the way, Barack Obama has with Iran, which is they pressed pause for a decade on getting the programs put together to be able to have the missile launch capability in combination with a nuclear weapon, so they can terrorize the globe. They're 10 years away from a missile, but at the end of this ridiculous Iran agreement, they will have a nuclear weapon. And so it's important for us to go back and say, okay, what did America do the last time they were faced with a rogue and hostile regime with nuclear weapons? We'd have to go back to the Cold War. And how did we win the Cold War? Well, everyone thinks we did it by just buying every weapon system we had, and that was important. But it was in combination with Ronald Reagan's understand that our values, our constitutional system, which believes in free markets, and it was a raging American economy where, because we were growing at such a rapid rate, sometimes 6%, we were going to be able to outspend the Soviet Union. They couldn't compete with us economically. And in the end, that's a large reason why they threw up their hands and said, we've got to try a different way of dealing with America because we'll never be able to keep up economically. So for those folks who don't love a big military and are more libertarian on national security issues, it's an interesting moment when a real leader, a real conservative leader, combined our strong belief in free markets and projected strength abroad and saved the world.
Do you think that same kind of play is going to be able to work with North Korea, just in the sense that they know that we're bigger than them, they know that we're more powerful than them, they know that we have a GDP size that's astronomical above what they are, a military size that's astronomical above what they are, but just a leader that's a little bit on the nutso side that just wants to cause harm? Do you think he's going to do something irrational, or do you think we can keep him at bay a little bit?
I don't know how to describe the crazy regime in North Korea, something the president has referred to as Little Rocket Man. And by the way, that's all intentional to taunt him.
Oh,
so
of
that
course.
you realize it's a different kind of American leader that we've elected. And I do think that there's a lot of people around the globe who are concerned. I mean, a lot of our enemies who are concerned about this guy, Donald Trump. I mean, I think the leadership of ISIS, if any of them are still alive now that they've been annihilated, I think people are saying that when he threatens you, when he says you are working against American interests and we're going to take you out, I think they're beginning to realize he means it. And I do think that there are plenty of people in Iran, in North Korea, in the capitals that menace the free world, that they're concerned that this guy Donald Trump might actually do the thing that he says he's going to do. And I think it's wonderful.
Oh, absolutely. Let's take a look at the home front here for a minute. The progressives, the Democrats, the crazy anti-Trumpers that, they take it to a whole nother level. They've made it so personal that if you're a Donald Trump supporter, then you must be part of the neo-Nazi, white supremacist, fascist regime that Donald Trump is, and Donald Trump is just the epitome of that. Have you ever seen such hate before, even during the times of Ronald Reagan, when he got a lot of attacks at will, but I don't know that it was really that personal at that time?
Well, let me just say to all your listeners, first of all, they do need to come out to the WSU campus at the Metroplex at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Everyone's invited. There's no charge. You'll have a chance to talk with all the speakers. You'll have a chance to learn, express your opinions, and I'd love to meet everyone. And one of the reasons we do these events across the country is because we've all been called such horrible names, racist, bigoted, haters, simply because we want to vote for Republicans. And I do think that I think it's worse for Donald Trump because he is just the focus of all liberal hate, like probably no one has been since Reagan. But if you go back to Reagan, and if you go to George W. Bush and even his father, every Republican who dares make they have, it's always a similar platform: lower taxes, smaller government, a constitutional order, judges who simply read the Constitution, peace through strength. These are the doctrines that underline our political movement. And if you really think about it, almost every person gets the same charges get made against them. We just had this governor's race in Virginia. Ed Gillespie lost. I'm sad about that. He's my neighbor. He's my friend. We go to church together. He's just a great human being. And the overwhelming response from liberals on Twitter is he's a horrible racist. You know why they're calling him a racist? This is a man who has never uttered a slur against anyone. He's the most genial person you'll ever meet. They're calling him a racist because he wants to stop illegal immigration, stop sanctuary cities, and prevent gang members from slipping over the border so they can terrorize us. This is the world in which we live. If you're going to stand for these conservative values, you're going to be called a bigot. The saddest thing of all is that blurs the line between us and the true bigots. There are, of course, intolerant people in our society, and they should be called out, but they use the term so often that it becomes meaningless. But it's very hurtful to the individual. If I go on CNN or MSNBC, the question of race is raised within a couple of minutes. I was on a show the other day with literally the theme was the reason why the response in Puerto Rico was quote unquote slow, or in the Virgin Islands was quote unquote slow, was because they're dominated by people of color. I had to go through these questions in an interview on MSNBC about, does Donald Trump just not like Hispanic people, and do you guys not like Hispanic people? I'm married to a Latina. It's so offensive. It's so disgusting that that's how they look at the world, and it really needs to stop. It has to stop. But beyond that, I personally am not going to take that. Donald Trump, when you call Donald Trump a hater, he says your mama wears combat boots. He just decides that he's not going to take it. And I do think there's a moment in America where a lot of us are saying we are tired of being called the worst names imaginable just because our politics differ.
Well, and I think that's why Donald Trump has so much support, because people like the fact that someone's standing up and not taking that. Because, look, the identity politics cannot win in the long term for the Democrats. They've tried it for years and years and years, and now they've gone to the extreme to where everybody is in some kind of group with the groupthink mentality, and it's going to fail on them soon. I mean, they hailed up even in Virginia, where you guys live as well, with the first transgender state legislator that won last night as well. That's their big victory, and if they try and use that message across the nation, it's going to fail badly for Democrats, which I guess only helps us, win as conservatives in the long run.
Look, when the American people see the amazing radicalism of where the modern Democratic Party wants to go, we win. Unfortunately, sometimes when we win and we get into government, we're pretty incompetent at government because we're kind of the anti-government party. And, so we've had our failings, not, repealing Obamacare, and there is some concern around this tax bill. So, we're not perfect by any means, but the country is still a center-right party, and thank God for the states like Kansas, which I very much miss living in because it's filled with good, practical, common sense folks, and those types of voters realize when they see the radicalism of Obamacare, they see the radicalism of Iran getting a nuclear weapon, or see the radicalism of a Supreme Court that no longer looks at the Constitution but uses their own notions to decide things. They reject it, and I think this country will continue to reject it. But I will tell you, we're in mortal combat for the heart and soul of the country, and I'm still kind of shocked that Donald Trump is the president and that he got through all of that to become the president.
Sure.
But the more I see us battling politically, the more I wonder if he's just not the very right president that we need to try to take back some territory that we lost over the last 8 years.
Well, that's very true, and I admit that it myself. During the primaries, I was a Ted Cruz supporter and was not a fan of Donald Trump. But the more that I see him and what he's doing and what he's saying, I'm becoming more and more of a supporter of that. Matt Schlapp, he's the president of the American Conservative Union. This, as you mentioned, kind of your homeland here. You're kind of born and raised in the Wichita area here. It's really exciting. How do you feel coming back to Wichita tomorrow?
I'm excited. My wife is joining me tomorrow. I'm going to be at a KFL dinner tonight, Kansans for Life, in honor of the passing of David Gittridge, who was a longtime pro-life leader in the state and a real friend and mentor of mine. I'm really sad that he's gone, even though I know he's in a better place. And then tomorrow we're going to be 4 o'clock at Wichita State. Everyone's invited to talk about the Reagan legacy and its impact today on the challenges that the country faces. And then I'm going to hang out with my family at night, and then unfortunately I have to fly back to the swamp and deal with reality.
Well, I don't know how you guys stay up at the swamp on a long-term basis. I wouldn't be able to do that, so I give you guys credit for it. But it's an event that no one needs to miss. They need to show up tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's totally free. I don't know how you guys are able to do it like that. It's so cool. Conservative.org. Go and get registered. Matt Schlapp, president of the American Conservative Union, one of the great conservative organizations here in the country. Matt, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's an honor. I can't wait to meet you tomorrow afternoon.
It sounds great, and tell everyone that you see, go to conservative.org, check out what the ACU stands for. We really are a great organization, and everybody make a road trip just south of the Ronald Reagan Airport February 21st through the 24th for CPAC. We'd love to see him.
Oh, man, that's going to be a great one, too. We'll have to get you back on to promote that and talk about that as well. Matt, we
Sounds great, Andy.
Appreciate it. I love it. We'll get you on the show again here real soon, sir.
All right. Thank you, man. Take it easy.
Very good times. 8 minutes at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll open up lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. We're wrapping up hour number 2 already right here on the Big Talker KQAM. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. It's post-election Wednesday. Let's make it a good one here, shall we? Thanks again to Matt Schlapp joining us, the president of the American Conservative Union. Just imagine how big this is. Wichita in the state of Kansas, really, is right front and center with national politics right now. We are the example across the country. The microscope is on you and I. And that's a really cool thing and a really cool position to be in, is it not? I see it as a success. We have so many individuals going to the Trump administration, like we've talked about before. We have rallies and people coming to Wichita and coming to the state of Kansas to do their rallies. We have Donald Trump Jr. that's going to be going to a rally for Chris Kobach here at the end of the month for his campaign for governor. We had President Trump and Ted Cruz coming in during the primary for the Kansas caucus. We have Wichita on the map at the national level. We have the American Conservative Union that puts on the largest conservative rally in the country every single year. That has been going on for how many years now? 70 plus years? And they're coming to Wichita to hold a rally to energize you, to energize the constituent, to energize the base of the Republican conservative movement. We need to take advantage of this, baby. Conservative.org. Go get registered. Go see the event tomorrow. I'm going to be out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great time. And let's have a little fun with it, shall we? Let's re-energize our batteries because we need that sometimes when we're in politics and we sink our head in the sewers on a daily basis. That's really the truth of it. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 3 of The Voice of Reason coming up here in just a minute. Lots more to cover today. Your thoughts and calls as well. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
The cat's out of the box, ladies and gentlemen. The hidden secret agenda that actually agencies are doing well, that we've increased spending across the board 1% to 2% every single year for every agency in the state government. If they continue to try and rail on the same things the way they've been doing for years, they're going to fail because people are beginning to wake up and realize that they have been lying. The propaganda they've been spouting has been not true, and that they're going to get in trouble for it.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Good morning to you. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3 of the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. It is a Wednesday. It's a post-election Wednesday. Welcome into it, where we recover from our shenanigans and excitement of going out and voting. 8 minutes past the hour. Welcome into it this morning. 316-721-8255, 721-TALK. If you want to join in, listener Jerry on Facebook. I don't think any conservatives won last night. It looks like it's a little sweet and more. Press one for English. Give a little more money. We'll sue. What a travesty. Yes, to a degree. Here's the thing, and I talked about this the first hour. I want to open it up to you in the third hour here. Conservatives necessarily didn't win last night, but Democrats didn't win. On the national front, at least. The Democrats are claiming major victory last night. The Democrats are claiming major movement, that they have now set a new foundation for their movement. They've set a new foundation for their party. They're moving forward. They had the momentum again. They're going to be able to begin defeating Donald Trump, and it's just not the case. It's not true in any way, shape, or form. The only national federal position in Congress that had an election last night was Utah's House District number 3. And guess what? It maintained to be a Republican. John Curtis won over Kathy Allen 58 to 27%. Congress did not change. We won in that one. That one, by the way, was heavily funded by Democrats and lost majorly. Why are we not talking about that race? Their big talk is the Virginia race, of course, with Ed Gillespie. And we just talked with, again, Matt Schlapp, president of the American Conservative Union, coming from Virginia and talking about how he's a good friend in that race. That's great. And ended up not winning. It was a brutal personal race, and Ed Gillespie tried to distance himself from Donald Trump. He tried to pave his own way as a Republican, and it didn't work. And we need to remember this is coming from a state to where it's predominantly blue, where Hillary Clinton won the state, where in the state legislature they just nominated and just elected their first quote-unquote transgender individual into the state legislature, and they're hyping this up as a big victory. And that may be a victory for them at that level. If you're going to play the identity politics, though, it's not going to work nationwide. And this ingrains them. This is a false victory for the Democrats because I feel that when they try and play the identity politics and they see it work in one election, now they're energized and momentous to want to do it everywhere else. And if they use that same tactic, then it's going to work out really well wherever else they go. And it's just not going to be the case. They've given themselves false victory last night. It was a Ralph Northam, the Democrat in the Virginia's governor's race, was the lieutenant governor already, was in a state to where Hillary Clinton won, has a progressive agenda that's very largely growing in that state. It's really no shock that he ended up winning in that race. Republicans cannot take away from this as a big defeat when it comes to this race. They just can't. 721-825-5721-TALK. I want to get your thoughts on these races last night because the media, as you can see, they're claiming big major victory last night when they're completely dismissing the Utah election. They're hyping up the Virginia and the New Jersey election. Guess what? New Jersey's a blue state. Chris Christie destroyed the Republican brand there because Chris Christie was an establishment rhino, moderate Republican and had no chance of going on the national scene. And once he took that photo op with kissing up to Barack Obama, he was done for. And the Republicans, that's their mentality there. That's no shocker that they ended up winning that governorship. Virginia's the big one they claim is victory. Still not a big victory because a very personal attack, a very personal campaign. You saw the campaign tactic with the commercial ads of the truck driving with the "Don't Tread on Me" sticker and the big Confederate flag waving in the background, chasing all the minority kids down the street, driving in the big old pickup truck. And that's how they try to portray him as the racist, bigoted, right-wing nutjob conservative. And it worked in that election, unfortunately. But try that anywhere else in the country, it ain't going to fly. Try that same campaign tactic anywhere else in the country where you already have a large Democratic base that thinks that way. And it's not going to work anywhere else. This is a false victory for them. They have false hope going into the midterms next year, and let them have that false hope because we'll destroy them in the upcoming elections. We still have, by the way, a very large conservative election coming up December 12th in Alabama with Roy Moore, and I guarantee you I'd put money on that we're going to see a different outcome than what we saw last night. Your thoughts on these races and more. We'll touch on the local ones here in a second as well. 721-825-5721-TALK. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? And Gary's on the line. Gary, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andy. Hey, Mr. Schlapp, at the very last, made the comment that we're fighting for the heart and soul of America.
Yes.
And I agree completely with him. And I believe that President Donald Trump is doing that very thing. I just my personal opinion, I think God placed him there. And I think it's a spiritual battle that America is in. I believe that Democrats are evolutionists. I think the ad it's a fallback to we're going to push Granny over the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Just the dirty politics. If you could please, I'd just like to clarify on the Virginia race where the transgender person won.
Yes.
That was a local, not a federal race, correct?
Correct. That was not a federal position. That was a state legislative race. So that's only for the state of Virginia. That is not someone going to Washington, D.C.
Okay. Now, did that person, do you believe, get elected because of they were transgender and people wanted to say, yes, I'm going to vote for a gender, like some of them said, I'm going to vote for a black president.
Well, it definitely was part of the campaign tactic because they're hyping it up as the first transgender individual to win a seat in Virginia. So I don't think that was the entire campaign from what I've read, but obviously us not being there, we don't know exactly how all the campaign ads went. But from what I've seen, the individual's name, by the way, it was Danica Rome, who's the Democrat and the transgender individual, the state's first transgender legislator. And Rome ran on the platform focused on infrastructure projects, creating jobs, and fixing Virginia's clogged Route 28, along with raising money for teachers and their teachers' salaries, as opposed to Bob Marshall, who is a 26-year-old conservative running in that seat, put government issues at the center of the campaign, promoting government transparency, small businesses, and school choice for parents. Here's where I think the campaign slipped up and why I think that this individual won. Not because of their transgenderism, because I don't really care, but being, of course, I'm sure that they use that on the campaign trail to say, hey, look at the ground that we're breaking and the glass ceiling we're shattering and all that kind of junk. But Rome the transgender Democrat, spent much more time doing TV commercials, doing interviews, accepting debates, whereas Marshall, the conservative, did not debate, declined many interviews, and kind of stayed out of the public eye. So not actually putting yourself out in front and public center in the middle of the campaign, I think harmed you. I mean, that's why Donald Trump won the primary. He spent very little money in the primary, but everybody was talking about him nonstop, and I think that's how this Rome ended up winning in the state legislative position there, along with Marshall trying to attack that transgenderism, which I don't think did him any favors in the election.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, Andy, for clearing that up.
Absolutely, Gary. I appreciate the call, my friend. I guess you can call that as a victory for the Democrats. I mean, they won the seat, obviously, but is that really a victory to give them momentum to go on to other elections? I really don't think it is. The way the campaigns were done, the area that it's in, I mean, it's a district where Hillary Clinton won by 5 percentage points in the presidential election last year. How is that a big victory of the movement and the tide of Democrats gaining momentum again nationwide? I don't see that being the case. They're, of course, trying to use that, and again, that's why I call it false victory. False hope for the Democrats on that front. Let's go back to the phones here. Shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Amy.
Hey, good morning, Amy. How are you?
Great. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a geriatric nurse practitioner, and I would just say we have to do something about health care. The next wave of socialized medicine is rolling through, and it is going to be destructive to the care, especially of our older adults. They're hitting the nursing homes first. So starting actually in this month, the government is telling us that you cannot have PRN, which is like as-needed anxiety medications or as-needed antipsychotic medicines. And I think there's definitely some benefit for limiting the use in older adults, but they're saying this is even the case for people who are on hospice. And we often need that for our hospice clients. They're telling us when we can and cannot use antibiotics. Now, they've been trying to use financial incentives for healthcare providers for, for quite a while.
Sure.
But healthcare providers, I mean, I will just say, forget it, I'm going to do what's right. Now they're penalizing the nursing homes. So if I prescribe an antibiotic for one of my clients, the nursing home may be fined for it if the patient doesn't meet a certain set of criteria. And some of the criteria is pretty stringent when you look at your older adult population. I mean, they're looking at white blood cell counts that are pretty high when you consider how frail elderly patients are.
Sure.
I think a lot of people there's a risk of them going septic. But now the government, I mean, they're taking over. They're telling us what to prescribe, how long we can prescribe it, and everything. Socialized medicine is here, and they're hitting the elderly first because they've got all the control in the nursing homes.
I'm glad you brought that up because you're absolutely right. Socialized medicine is here, whether we want to admit it or not, while we're still trying to debate repealing Obamacare at the federal level, which we still have an opportunity to do. We didn't lose any seats at the federal level last night in the elections. Some of the statewide elections, what I believe it was Maryland or was it New Jersey, one of the states on the East Coast last night, along with voting for the local elections, voted on a statewide referendum to expand Medicaid. While we're talking about shrinking Obamacare and downsizing Medicaid, there are still states that are still wanting to expand it, and we have not downsized it here in the state of Kansas. It is still on the talking block for our legislative session in January here at the state level to continue to try and fight for expansion of Medicaid. So you're right, socialized medicine is here. It's still showing its ugly face, and they still have momentum to continue to try and go down that road.
Right, and they are telling healthcare providers how to prescribe, what to do, and there are financial penalties for not doing it.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
I didn't realize
scary.
how bad that
This
was.
is scary.
I didn't realize how bad that was with dictating to you as the nurse, as the doctor, for people that are taking care of these individuals. Yeah, this is the medicine that we think they need. This is how long they're going to be on it. This is how much we're going to pay for, and we're not going to cover anything else above and beyond that. You want to talk about death panels and want to talk about the government dictating health care. It's here, and you guys are seeing it on a daily basis.
Right. Well, and it's even beyond that. They're saying if a patient is put on an antibiotic and they don't meet a certain set of criteria, which I agree there's antibiotic overuse. So we need to curtail that. But they're saying if a patient is put on an antibiotic and they don't meet the government's criteria, then there will be financial penalties. It's not just we won't cover the medicine. It's when the surveyors come into the nursing homes, they're going to be penalizing the nursing home.
What a sad ordeal. Amy, thank you so much for the call there in that update. I appreciate that. I mean, not nearly as severe as some of the elderly that need these kind of medications, of people who need constant medications. But I mean, I saw that just going to the doctor. I think I told you this about a month or so ago. And just feeling low on energy, feeling kind of lagging, went and got checked, and they were checking the testosterone. They got blood samples, and they said, oh, by the way, you need to come back a month later and do other blood samples as well to confirm that that's what it is, or else you're going to have to pay for all the blood samples and the blood draws out of pocket, because we're not going to cover it just on one blood sample and one blood draw. Like, that's... Welcome to Socialized Life. Sorry, we're not going to cover it unless we triple confirm that it's going to be that's actually what it is, and then we're going to cover it, and then by then it was really more expensive than what it actually needed to be. Unbelievable. Let's go back to the phones here. Shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Wallace.
Wallace, how are you, sir?
Hey, doing well. I agree with everything you said on the election. Nothing changed with the exception of, Chris Christie, who essentially, torpedoed.
That's not much of a loss right there going to Democrat, because I don't know when he was conservative in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, he was a slightly more conservative Democrat was all he was.
Right. He was good on the unions. That was about the only thing he was good on.
Yeah, there won't be a change. But one of your callers said that, Trump was, put into the presidency, by God.
Mm-hmm.
And let me preface this by saying I'm a spiritual guy.
Sure.
Okay, I believe in God, but in order to make that statement, then you can't then discount and say, well, God put the transgender person in there, and God got rid of Chris Christie. And what kind of bugs me is we use God as a crutch. God's not a crutch. God gave us talents and minds and things, and the way you glorify God is to take those talents that you were born with and take them to the maximum, do the most you can. Here's what bugged me too. The other day, the shooter in Texas, the guy who took out the killer in Texas, the plumber,
mm-hmm.
came out and said that God protected him.
Sure.
And what made me mad is I was like, wait, he protected you, but not the 50 people sitting in church?
Well, a lot of the churchgoers too said that he was an angel from God, because it could have been a lot worse, where hundreds of people could have been dead instead of just the 26, and he was the saving grace that came here in time to limit the damage and collateral damage. I get what you're saying there. I would respond by saying, because I'm a religious person myself, and I mean, I haven't gone to church in a while, but I'm spiritual myself as well, and I think that. First off, you could say the thing that, like, God works in mysterious ways sort of thing. I think that there are opportunities where God places people at the right moment, at the right time, when they need to. Whether Donald Trump was picked by God or not is up for debate, obviously, and we can think on that. I would say that that God put him in that position where he needed to be at that time. And with the world full of free will, we have still been closely enough to realize that we need to go back to a little bit more of those traditional principles as opposed to going further away from him. And that opportunity arose, and we were able to seize the day. Now, when it comes to the transgender in Virginia, obviously a lot of people say that that's not the most godly thing. I would go back to the idea of free will, and that opportunity was there, and those individuals seized it.
Well, I mean, look, and I don't want to sit here and bash people. I think the world is a lot better place with people who believe in God than obviously an atheist.
Sure.
And it's just, I think we would be better suited to understand, look, God doesn't micromanage. We are not predestined. This plan, look, if God has this ultimate plan that you're going to be here and you're going to do this, then you don't have freedom that the founding fathers inspired by God, granted us. If your destiny is already put in place, then it's pointless to be here, and that's not what it is.
Sure.
God gave us our freedom, ultimate freedom. He's not up there micromanaging our lives.
Well, exactly.
And I just think that people like to say, well, God did this, but he didn't do this. God saved this, God helped this guy who killed the people, but he let 50 people die on the other side. That's not God. God didn't do either one.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's that free will. Wallace, I appreciate interesting conversation. I mean, I don't want to get too religious in that sense because people have their own faith and their own beliefs. Some people believe that they did put Donald Trump in there in that position. People think that it was just kind of draw of the luck. Some people feel lucky. Some people feel like God helped them out in their personal lives. And I mean, I don't want to go down that road necessarily with the religious faith, but I will say that I personally do believe that there are positions and doors that are opened up by God at times when they need to be done because he knows kind of what's going on. And if we need a little nudge one way or another, how many people anticipated Donald Trump to come out of nowhere and now spend very little money on the campaign trail, beat every other Republican candidate, including the most conservative guy that many people thought, like Ted Cruz, and then go on to beat Hillary Clinton with the master machine that was the Clintons? I mean, it's divine intervention or great luck or just a luck of the draw in the moment and the flavor of the day that ended up pulling it through. Whatever you believe in, it's a very particular situation. And sometimes in a desperate time when we have strayed too far, I personally believe that there is someone that comes along at the right time in order to do the right thing and get us back on track just a little bit. But again, I mean, that's everybody's personal faith. I don't want to go too far down that road, but a great conversation. I love it, Wallace. I appreciate it. Let's take a break here. We'll open up lines to you when we come back. Some more your thoughts and calls on the election last night. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Bottom of the hour news coming up here in just a minute. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us here. We'll recap some of the local elections when we come back. Open up lines to you to anything that's on your mind involving the elections. Plus, we have not done it yet today, and it's just about time. We got to do the Dave Ramsey book giveaway brought to you by You Build It of Wichita, the Total Money Makeover. Stay tuned in. We got 30 minutes left. It's going to happen sometime during that 30 minutes. We'll give away a copy to you, Dave Ramsey's big book, The Total Money Makeover. It's going to be a great time. All you got to do is answer a question. We'll have that question for you coming up after the bottom of the hour. Stay tuned in. This is The Voice of Reason on the Big Talker KQAM. It's Election Day, post-Election Day. What happened? Your thoughts on it? We got a lot to cover here. Stay tuned.
Go up, so do our tempers.
Oh my God, no!
Fighting for Kansans every day. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the show today. It's a post-election Wednesday. Appreciate you hanging out with us here the best that you can. We love having you along. By the way, I haven't even mentioned this on the air. I'm just not one to really want to do this, but if you're watching the Facebook Live feed, if not, then you can get on the Facebook Live. But I do have to, again, thank you for what we're doing here, the growing that we're doing, the excitement that we have going on with the station. It's really cool. And if you look behind me, there's a few more plaques on the wall there. The Voice of Reason with the Kansas Association of Broadcasters, honorable mention, Large Market Radio special program, and second place, Kansas Association of Broadcasters, Large Market Radio for Public Affairs program. Due to you. Thank you for that. Really honored. I can't believe it. I got to say, when I started getting into radio at the broadcasting school, after leaving college and trying to venture out, I listen to talk radio, I can do this, I'll figure it out. I never thought that it would actually be something that is what it is today and continuously growing. The fact that we put the first hour of the show on 4 radio stations in 5 different states is really freaking cool. The fact that I get to have the honor to fill in, as you may have heard last night and other times, be able to fill in for a syndicated program with 40-plus affiliate stations in very large markets across the country with Armed American Radio is an absolute great honor. The fact that we get to do this, we get to have an impact on elections, on policymaking, on legislation, on our state government. The fact that we talk to the governor's administration and the governor's office, somebody from there, on a weekly basis almost. The fact that we just had on the president of the American Conservative Union, one of the largest conservative organizations in the country, on this show just last hour. The fact that we can call up Mike Gallagher or Joe Pags to come on whenever we need to, and some of these other hosts just to say, hey, talk with us in our local market here. By the way, speaking of that, some people like him. Some people think he's a little wacko. I think he's quite entertaining. But sometime this week, we will be, possibly next week, we will be chatting with Alex Jones as well. Yes, the Alex Jones from Infowars.com. I'm kind of excited to talk to him just because he's kind of a big deal. Whether you agree with him or think he's a nut, he's entertaining. It's entertaining radio there. This portion of The Voice of Reason, by the way, brought to you by Network Consultants, business owners. I know you have a lot of computers. You may all be connected to a certain network. You may have a network printer to where all your computers print to a certain network. You have your firewall set up to try and stop hackers from getting in and getting your information. You have your backups so that way you don't lose any of your accounting information, any of your billing information, any programs that you may use on your systems. They are an infrastructure company, and they can help you out with network consultants. They work on your firewalls and sonic walls, your database safety and security, network communication, VPN, backup solutions, even getting you set up on the cloud, which many people are doing now. With all the programs and all the computers that you have, it's the side of the business that some people just don't pay a whole lot of attention to, but it's extremely important. When it goes down, it's more expensive to fix the issues than it is to actually repair them. That's where Network Consultants comes in. They can come in, they'll visit your business, they'll review your system. By the way, this is all a free network consult and analysis there. If you tell them that I sent you, they'll visit your business, review everything you have, help you any way that you can with any issues you have, even help you guide to manage your own network so you do not have to hire them on full time. How cool is that? They do have month-to-month plans available so they can monitor when things pop up to fix them before they actually break and become an issue. You don't have to do any long-term agreements. All you got to do is tell them I sent you here on The Voice of Reason. 316-201-4624, 316-201-4624, or visit network-consultants.com. Again, network-consultants.com. All right, 721-8255-721-TALK. Your thoughts on any of the elections that happened last night, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm going to make the case that nationally, Democrats did not do anything special, but they're holding it up as the victory. I read in the first hour the Reuters story of the vicious, terrible, right-wing nutso that destroyed that really was a personal attacker and was a terrible, horrible human being the Republican in Virginia. Democrat Ralph Northam won a bitter race for Virginia's governor on Tuesday, dealing a setback to President Donald Trump with a decisive victory over Republicans who had adopted some of the president's combative tactics and issues. Being the Republican that distanced himself from Donald Trump, right? Yeah. Northam, the state's lieutenant governor, overcame a barrage of attack ads by Republican Ed Gillespie. This is coming from the side that made a commercial about Republicans with Confederate flags and the "Don't Tread on Me" bumper sticker on their trucks, chasing after minority children in a community. That's fantastic. Hit the soft-spoken Democrat on divisive issues such as immigration, gang crime, and Confederate statues. There's no bias in that story whatsoever from Reuters.com on that one. I don't see it as a victory. I see that as a false victory. Good luck trying to carry that into the midterms next year. Now, for the general election, or for the local elections here, hat tip to KWCH. I'll read some of these here. If you have not heard, we'll go through this list again for city council, school board, and then some of the mayor's races in the area here, as I've had some people on Facebook actually asking about some of these. But for city council in the city of Wichita, District number 1, the hotly contested one. We had both of these candidates on the show. Brandon Johnson ends up winning that one over Mike Kennard, 66-34. District number 3, James Clendenin ends up winning 71-29 over William Stouffer. District number 6 for Wichita City Council, Cindy Claycomb ends up winning 88-12 over Sybil Strum. Those were the 3 districts on the ballot last night within city limits here of Wichita. Now, USD 259, Wichita School Board, a really hotly contested, and really it ended 50% to 50% in District number 1. The incumbent of 10 years, Betty Arnold, ends up losing by 80 votes to Ben Blankley. Talk about votes actually mattering and votes counting. 80-vote difference, Ben Blankley ends up beating the incumbent Betty Arnold in District Number 1. District Number 2, Julie Hedrick ends up winning with 44% of the vote. Trish Heilman, a close second, 35%. And Deborah Washington ends up in third place at 21%. In District Number 5, unfortunately, we didn't get to talk to any of these individuals in District Number 5 on the show. But Mike Rohde ends up winning 64-36 over Peter Grant for that district. And District Number 6, Ron Rosales ends up winning 49% of the vote. Walt Chappell coming in second with 28%, and Shirley Jefferson at 23%. So that's what happened in the local area for the Wichita area. Looking outside just briefly, according to the mayor's races, David Austin gets the mayor position for Bel Air. Congrats to him. 77-23 was the final vote there. Garden Plain, the mayor, Kevin Hammond, ends up winning. Not a whole lot of turnout. 106 votes, ends up winning with 86% of the votes. Paul McPhillips Sr. Comes in second with 17 votes. Talking about your votes counting one way or another there. In Hayesville, Bruce Armstrong, a very narrow, close race. That one coming in within really 15 to 20 votes. Again, votes actually mattering and counting. Hayesville Mayor Bruce Armstrong ends up winning 51-49 over Russ Kessler in that one. Mays Mayor race, Claire Donnelly ends up winning 65-35 against Kenneth Holtman. Great Bend race for mayor, Joe Andrasek ends up winning 50% of the vote. Brock McPherson and Aline Owen ends up losing that one there, so congrats to Joe on that race. Great Bend sales tax at 0.25% sales tax be adopted for the city of Great Bend. That one does end up passing 75-25 on that vote. Hoisington Mayor Dalton Pop, the write-in, ends up winning 45% with that one there in that race. So a lot of races happening all around the area, and I'm glad that people did get to go out and participate. Again, I don't know the final turnout percentage. I hope that it was decent. I know that middle of the day yesterday, it was roughly around 5% from what they've seen, and they were anticipating 5 to 8%. So being in the middle of the day, I hope that's nice. I did see, I went to my precinct last night and I was voting, and it was roughly about 5 o'clock, a little after 5. And it was nice because there were steady people. It wasn't really a long line, but it was steady. People walking in, walking out consistently, which is really good to see. I did laugh, though, because I almost thought about it to say something while I was there. But where I was, and I vote at the Edgemore precinct, the Edgemore Rec Center up there on the northeast corner of town. And in the parking lot, right at the entrance of the parking lot of the rec center, there was some construction, and in about half of the driveway into the parking lot was blocked off for construction. And I almost thought that it was a conspiracy from Chris Kobach for voter suppression in that area. I almost thought about it. I mean, come on, if we can restrain how many people can come in and out with that restricted driveway going into the parking lot, that must be some kind of conspiracy from the government for voter suppression in an area to try and limit the amount of people to go in and vote, right? I almost thought about it. Almost. Not quite, though. 46 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts and calls when we come back. Wrapping up the show today. It's a Wednesday right here on The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
I'd like for you to remember, by the way, today is November 8th. Today is 1 year from the election of President Donald Trump. 1 year ago today. Can you believe it? And there's a reflection that we need to have. First off, I'd like to say I am very grateful that he is president. I'm very grateful that we have a Republican majority in Congress. Now we need to actually do our job, but I am grateful for them there. We have a lot to get to. We have a lot of things to do. We have a lot of issues that we need to address at the statewide levels and at the federal level, and we need to do so with more Republican support, without Republicans blocking other Republicans. But after the shooting that happened over the weekend, to hear a president not go after guns, but actually make a comment to say, well, it was actually stopped by a good guy with a gun. The same kind of gun, by the way. When we hear him say we're going to put America first, when you hear him not take the crap from the left-wing progressives by the name-calling, racism, bigotry, intolerance, yada, 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 and he stands up to it and name-calls them back and calls it fake news. When he does those sorts of things, it's something that not many people are used to. And to reflect on the past year, to imagine it's already been 1 year since his voting in to the presidency of the United States, look at where we've come over the last year. Really, the Democrats haven't gotten really anywhere because they hate and despise him just as much as they did the day he got elected. There may be a time today where you hear people go outside and scream because they're protesting so much, and journalists reflect on the night they remember being the election of Donald Trump. This according to the Washington Free Beacon. Rebecca Traister, writer-at-large for New York Magazine. They were serving like $12 pulled pork sandwiches at the event center for Hillary Clinton. It was nuts. People were bouncing off the walls. Everyone genuinely believed she was going to win. I don't know how it made me feel more confident or not. And I felt so alone when Donald Trump won. I knew it was done. I was by myself on the floor, and I started to cry. I was thinking everything from, I'm going to have to rewrite my piece, to, can we even stay in the United States? I texted my husband, tell Rosie to go to bed. I don't want her to watch. In the cab home, the cabbie had on the news, and that's when I heard the acceptance speech, and I said, can you please turn it off? I couldn't hear his voice. I was like, I can't listen to his voice for the next 4 years. I just can't do it. I got back to Park Slope, and I went to check on the girls. And when I went to say goodnight, I looked at Rosie, and I had this conscious thought that this is the day that will divide our experience of what is possible. This is the day where a limitation is reinforced on her for being a girl instead of a boy. MSNBC correspondent Jacob Soboroff said these thoughts changed from believing Trump could not win to totally believing Trump could win. Quote, I went from this feeling of, oh my gosh, wow, I just can't believe it, to, in a matter of seconds, wow, I totally believe that there are racists out there that voted him in. This is the response, and it's fun to reminisce on these, is it not? Yes, your tears taste so sweet because we get to enjoy your lack of understanding of Americanism and patriotism and putting America first and trying to play that identity politics game. It's quite a beautiful thing, is it not? Editor for the New Yorker, David Remnick. Not only did I have anything else ready, I don't think our site had anything or much anything ready in case Trump won. The mood in the office, I would say, was frantic. That night, I went to a friend's election night party. As Clinton's numbers started sour, I took my laptop out, got a chair, found a corner of that noisy room, and started thinking and writing. And that's what turned out to be an American tragedy. Because we can't just fathom the idea of President Donald Trump becoming president of the United States. 721-8255-721-TALK. I find it quite comical, but the journalist reminiscing of the night that Donald Trump was elected that happened 1 year ago. Can you believe it? It's fantastic. 721-8255-721-TALK. We got just a couple minutes of the show. No, I have not forgotten. Let's go ahead and do it right now. Caller number one, 721-8255-721-TALK, and we'll get you a copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, the book that you need if you're going to get out of debt. The book that you need to have if you want to actually start getting your finances in order. It's over 5 million copies that have been sold. It's a fantastic book, and we have a copy. Hat tip to You Build It of Wichita. Appreciate them partnering up with us on this giveaway. We'll do caller number one right now, and we'll get you a copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover right now. Coming up on the show tomorrow, we're going to try and get Mayor Jeff Longwell. He's on standby to try and join us in the 8 o'clock hour to welcome in the new city council members. Really looking forward to chatting with him on some of the events and some of the workings that they're doing. It's coming up in the city council in the next few months, and what they're going to be working on in the local area here. Also, we should be talking with someone from Governor Brownback's office as well, being a Thursday, as we always look forward to doing. I may re-air in the first hour if you missed it. I may re-air the Matt Schlapp interview with the American Conservative Union and air that in the first 6 a.m. hour of the show. Caller number one, 721-825-5721-TALK. Let's go to the phones here. Good morning. What's your name?
Liz.
Lynn, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, very good. Appreciate you calling in. The Dave Ramsey book, The Total Money Makeover. All you have to do is answer a simple question, and you get the book. And the question is, according to Dave Ramsey's style of getting out of debt and trying to not be in debt, how long of a term should you have on a mortgage if you try and purchase a home?
15 years.
15 years. There it is. Lynn, we got you a book. We appreciate you calling in here. Hang tight. We'll get your information in just a minute off the air, but you have won yourself a copy of Dave Ramsey's Total Money. It's a simple question, right? It's simple questions. As long as you half pay attention to Dave Ramsey, it's a lot of fun. We have a few more copies of this. We got about another week to give away one of these every single day. Stay tuned in, and you'll be able to have fun with it. But hat tip to You Build It of Wichita. Dave Ramsey's copy of the Total Money Makeover. We'll get you a copy, and hang tight. We'll get you that as soon as we get off the air here. It's so much fun. Election day. It's a lot of things that happen at once. We'll open up lines to you again and talk about it tomorrow as well with anything on your mind. Now we start shifting towards the legislative session. Now we start talking about the issues happening at the state level. Now we start focusing on tax reform, because tax reform is going to be a major deal both at the state level and at the federal level. Get ready, baby. It's only just begun. The fun begins now. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Have a great day, everybody.